Welcome back to another video. I'm having one of those weeks, feels like every week at the moment, where things are really busy. But I need to release a video this week, actually tomorrow, and I've been promising to do this video since January, so I thought it's probably about time that I make it. So in this video I'm going to be comparing an Albion press, I've got two in the background here, I'll explain why I have two in a moment, against a Pooki press. So I'm going to be talking about the pros and cons of both types of presses. I use them both, and yeah, talking you through the different aspects and showing you what the prints look like from them, so you can see, if you don't know, which one might be right for you. So before I properly get into the video, I feel like I need to give a bit of a disclaimer, because this Pooki press was gifted to me by Pooki Presses. Tim, the owner, reached out to me early in 2022, and I think it was January, and I was actually looking for a nipping press, which is like a press that it has a bottom and then it has the top of the press, and it kind of corkscrews down to, I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but it's like, it basically has this kind of mechanism, and I think traditionally they were used for book binders, so to hold books closed while you're maybe gluing the spine, something like that. And I was looking for one because I wanted to start printing at the shows I do, so I could demonstrate my printing technique live in front of customers, and obviously I can't take these along because they're just a bit too heavy, and my car is full enough as it is. So I had been looking for like a vintage nipping press, but Tim messaged me and I was like, yeah, I'd love to try it out, and that's kind of how it started. So it was gifted to me, and then Tim gave me a discount code that I'll put in the description that gives 5% off to customers. And for the first 18 months I said to Tim, I don't want any money. Often with these codes, when you see them, the person giving you the code might get 5% back and you might get 5% off, kind of thing. But I said to Tim, I don't want any money because I want to be able to share it like authentically. Like if it's not working for me, I want to be able to say that. And if it is, I just want to be able to speak freely without feeling like I'm trying to get people to buy it. But then after 18 months, I started to accept the commission because I was happy using it. I was happy saying to people that I'd recommend it. So for the last almost year, I've been getting commission from it. But yeah, it's just 5%. But I just wanted to make that clear. And I'm going to be as honest as possible in this video, because I don't want people buying something that isn't right for them. So yeah, I just wanted to say that at the beginning. So this is my biggest Albion press from 1838, and it's a beautiful press, this one. When I got it, it didn't work perfectly, like it wasn't set up that well, and I didn't use it very much, but it has been serviced. When was it serviced? Early this year, I think, or end of last year. So it is set up and working well, but I don't use it that much because basically I bought this press because my little press that I use all the time, sometimes doesn't have the right amount of pressure for me. Like I can't print that bigger blocks on it, and if they're quite big, I'm doing a lot of hand burnishing. So I thought this one would help, but actually it's not that much bigger. It doesn't really make that much difference for the pressure and the size of block I can print on it. So yeah, I probably will sell this at one point. Like I keep thinking I should sell it, and then I come up with a design and I'm like, oh, that would be better on this press. But one day I'd like a really like big floor standing press, and keep my little press, because this press is like, I don't know, it's just, I can't imagine ever selling it, this little one. So this is the Little Albion, my favourite one. I've had it for 6 years, 7 years, something like that. It's really lovely to use, but it is tiny, like it's almost like novelty size. Like they don't normally come this small. It suits me because I work small, and because my hands are quite sore, because I get RSI from the engraving, because it is quite small, I feel like it's quite light and therefore it's quite smooth to use. So yeah, I really like using this press. So I'm sure if you've seen my channel before, you'll know how this press works, but basically you kind of roll the bed in and then you apply the pressure that way with a lever. So it's very simple and easy to do. It's quick, but often it will need hand burnishing, which you'll see later probably, because I'm going to compare kind of the pressure of the two presses. So here is the Pooki press. You may have seen similar presses to this in printmaking shops and online. This one's made in the Forest of Dean, so it's really local to me, which I love. So it just works like this. It's got a bit of ply here and here. And then it's a very simple mechanism. You put that down and then you apply pressure that way. There's nothing in at the moment to need any pressure, but yeah, that's how it works. So yeah, two quite simple presses in the way, like they're really simple to use. So the reason I choose a Pooki press over another press of its type is that you can print wood engravings on it. So when it arrived with me, this bolt was in the top hole there, so it was set up for wood cut or lino, so slimmer matrices basically. So you can move it down and then you can fit type high items in it, so like letterpress or wood engravings. I remember it being a little bit stiff to move from where it was initially down, but I did manage it on my own, and I don't have particularly strong hands, but I do remember that being a bit of a challenge. So there's two things I can easily talk about comparing these two types of presses. One is the price. This Pooki press in A4 is just over £200. It comes in A3 as well and A5. I've always wanted to try the A5 because it's just, you know, smaller and lighter, and I just wondered if it would have like the same amount of pressure. So I'd be intrigued to try that, but yeah, this is like the middle one. So it's like a good size for a lot of printmakers. And my Albion presses, so the smallest one I bought for £3,500 back in I think it was 2017, but I'm not sure, it could have been 2018. And then the slightly larger one I think was £4,000 in 2020. So those prices won't change too much because they're antique items. So that's the good thing about buying old presses like that, is that they generally retain their value. Whereas obviously a Pooki press would go down in value as you used it. And then another really easy win for the Pooki press is portability. So this press is very light. It's easy to lift. I can carry it on a walk when I'm printing. And sometimes I put it in my backpack as well because it's not that big. But yeah, it's really easy to move around. And then my Albion presses, not very portable at all. Although one of them is on wheels, so you can move it like to the edge of the studio, but then there's a step down. So me and my husband have carried the smallest one on a few occasions between like a table and a car, but like only a couple of meters. And then the bigger one, I don't think we could move that. I'm sure two strong people could, but I wouldn't feel confident moving it. So yeah, I'd take that apart to move that one. Saying that, most printmakers don't need to move their presses that much. But yeah, for me, because I print outside, it's been really great to have the Pooki press as an option. Right, so we can't compare much more without actually printing on the presses. And I've got here a stack of 3 boxes of Woodblocks. And someone asked me on my last video or the video before, they wanted to know where I keep my Woodblocks. So it's not very exciting. I keep them in the cupboard under my stairs with the dog food and our shoes because it's cool in there, and it's the only place there was really space downstairs. So I've got lots of blocks here. I've taken quite a lot of blocks to Chris Daunt for him to resurface. So this is like maybe 3/4 of the blocks I've engraved, and then 1/4 are being resurfaced or have been resurfaced. So yeah, I thought I'd go through them and pick out a few blocks to print so we can compare what the presses are like. So going through blocks always brings back memories. So this is obviously from 2020, a woman in a face mask, really different to my normal work. I can't remember why I made this. Maybe I think it was for one of many postcards raising money for charity, I think it was. I can't remember. 2020 feels like so long ago. So yeah, there's loads of different blocks in here. So yeah, I'm going to have a rummage through and pick out maybe 2 or 3 to show you the printing process. So after searching through my dusty blocks, I've come up with 3 that I'm gonna test out. So we've got this little sewing machine from possibly 2019, 2020, a long time ago. So it's quite small. I'd expect this to print well on both presses, but it's really quite detailed, so it might be a little bit of a challenge. And then we've got a slightly bolder design but bigger. This has had 2 names in the past. The first version was, I can't remember, the second was Moorland Tree, I think. Anyway, first created this in 2018 to 2019, I think. So yeah, quite an old block. And then we've got this owl called Mr. Wise. I engraved this in 2018, I think. So these are throwback blocks, but I just thought it'd be nice to print them again. So this is as big as I'm going. I know that the Pooki Press is going to struggle with this. I know my Albion's probably going to struggle with this without some hand burnishing. And there's just no point going bigger because I just don't think it would work. Wood engravings are quite hard to print compared to lino, partly because the surface is so hard, there's no like give in it. Like you can't stamp them like you could like the really rubbery lino, because yeah, there's no give in the surface. And also because the lines are so fine, you need quite a small amount of ink so it doesn't flood it. And because there's not much ink, you need quite a lot of pressure. Otherwise you get a patchy print. So yeah, it's more of a challenge to print than a lino block. I was just trying to work out how best to film this because I think there need to be continuous shots so you can tell like there's no cheating, it is like exactly as it is happening. But then it would be a really long video, so what I'm going to do I think is film them both in portrait mode and put them alongside each other for you. So it won't be such a long video and you can kind of compare them as I print them. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead now, ink them up just in black to keep it simple and so you can see like the contrast and yeah, see how they go. So I've printed the 3 blocks on both presses. I was a little bit nervous to how things would print because I didn't want to like let him down because he's a small business, he's been really supportive, but also wanted to give a really honest view of how the presses print. But I think basically they came out as I kind of expected they would. So starting with the little sewing machine print. So the Albion print is more crisp. You can see the details in the wood grain a bit better. I'm not talking about the grain of the block, I'm talking about I've done an engraving of wood grain. Yeah, it's just a bit of a crisper print. The Pooki Press printed it well, but yeah, it's not quite so crisp. There's an area where there's a lot of black. That is a bit patchy, but I'd kind of expect that with a Pooki Press. It's not going to print as well as an Albion, even with really small blocks. Oh, hey Winnie. She's been sunbathing in the garden. She just came to say hello. So next up is the Moorland Tree print. So we've got, with the Albion Press, it struggled to print the centre of the print a little bit. With the bird and the trunk of the tree, it's a bit patchier than I'd like. So at that point, that's when I normally hand burnish my blocks. So with my videos that I share on social media, especially the short videos, it looks like I print, pull the print back and it's perfect. But what really happens is I hand burnish with a bone folder, or I've got, I'll show you. So yeah, I either use a bone folder to kind of burnish the block so that it adds extra pressure, especially to the centre of the block, which is where it normally struggles to print. Or if it's a bigger block or has like, the design's quite consistent, there's not loads of deep bits in it, I'll use a Slama Press. But most of the time I'll use just a bone folder. You can use a wooden spoon. And yeah, that's the reality, is that nearly all my prints need a little bit of extra help when printing with either press. And then the Pooki Press, yeah, it was a bit patchy. You definitely need to hand burnish this one. But the edges are printed well, it's just the centre again that struggled. But yeah, not something that I'm surprised by, that's kind of what I expected. And then lastly we've got Mr. Wise. So with the Albion, yeah, it struggled to print the centre of the block. I knew it would, it's very fine detail, there's a lot of surface for it to print, and when either it's like fully an unengraved area, so if I was printing in black it would be a black area, or very detailed, that's when it tends to struggle. So not surprised by that. And then same with the Pooki Press really. Outside printed pretty well. The centre it struggled, and it struggled quite a lot more than the Albion did. But yeah, both not bad without any hand burnishing. So I guess you may wonder, why bother having the presses? Why not just hand burnish and don't spend your money? You can do that, that's how I started. That's also how I got RSI the first time, because it's a lot of repetitive motion, at least with my presses. They print the outside of the block. The other benefit, especially with reduction printing, I find, is that the presses, even if they're not coping with the centre of the block, they kind of, the pressure of it sticks the paper to the block, so it stays where it is for when you burnish more easily than if you would just put it on and then we're hand burnishing it, like it's not already stuck to the block with the ink, so it slips around a lot more. That's what I found anyway. So that's why even with a block where it's just really struggling to print it, I'd normally choose a press. Another thing to consider is upkeep and the cost of maintaining your press. So I haven't had to do anything to my Pooki Press in the 2.5 years I've had it, but they offer a lifetime warranty on wear, and also they offer all the spares you might need if any part of the press needs replacing. And obviously those spares are going to be pretty affordable compared to spares of an Albion. So an Albion tends to need servicing, like it's an antique and it's made it this far, and it's kind of, I see it as your duty to keep it in good condition for the next generation. So it will need servicing. I don't know if you really need to do it every year. I've had mine serviced a couple of times. Theo services my presses. I'll put his website in the description because he's really good. He also moves presses as well. But it's obviously a lot more expensive because it's a really specialist job, because there aren't that many of these presses around. So that's something to consider as well, just the cost of upkeep. And then I guess the last thing I can talk about is ease of use. So if I was printing on the Albion press for a day, I would probably get a sore hand and carpal tunnel symptoms. Like a full day is a lot for anything like that. But if I was printing for just like 4 or 5 hours, I wouldn't expect to have any pain. It's really, really easy to use. Albions vary, some are a bit more clunky, but my one, very easy to use, and I'd always choose to use that if I could because of that reason. It's quick and yeah, comfortable to use. The Pooki Press, I'd say it's as quick. And also, I guess when you set up the presses, if my Albion needs adjusting, so I just either put more paper on top or below the block if it needs raising up. Like if it's not as high as it needs to be, the wood, I just put paper underneath to bring it up to the right height for the right pressure. With the Pooki Press, it's actually easier. You just put your block down, put a bit of paper on top, and then push the this bit here onto the block and kind of wiggle it around till it's flat. So if you're using a lot of different blocks, like printing one and then moving on to another, actually the Pooki Press might be easier because it's so easy to just change the height. But I've printed on the Pooki Press at shows for like a whole day, and it does hurt my hand. I think because you need a lot of, like, you're creating that downwards force, so you're putting quite a lot of your body into the press. But also the handle, let's just put that there. So you can only, on the A4 one anyway, it's hard to fit. You can fit both hands, but only just. So I guess just that can be a bit harsh on your hands. But still, if I was printing on this for like 2 hours, I'd say that would be fine. Any more and my hands would start to hurt a little bit. So hopefully that was a useful video and has given you a little bit more insight into how the two different types of presses work with wood engraving. Obviously it's a whole other thing with lino, and I thought I'm not a lino printmaker, so I won't delve into that side of things. But for wood engraving, yeah, Pooki Press is great because it's portable, it's way more affordable. If a Pooki Press and an Albion Press were in the same room, like they are here, I will always use my Albion. I just find it easier to use and the results are way more consistent. But when I'm out and about, the Pooki Press is amazing. So yeah, I use both. I use the Albion more in terms of I print a lot more prints on it, but yeah, when I'm doing my residencies and working outside, the Pooki Press really comes into its own. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. I'd say if you're just starting out and you want something that's going to help you print, but not such a financial commitment as one of these old presses, a Pooki Press is probably a good way to go. If you have any questions I haven't answered, I'm not sure I've covered everything, I've tried to, but if I haven't, leave a comment and I'll answer it there. I'm working on quite a lot of videos at the moment, so there'll be quite a lot of content coming up. I think I've planned up till the end of November now. We've got Chincolet experiments coming up, which is when you use thin paper and add it into your prints. And then we've got multi-block printing, reduction printing, my advent calendar, the process of making that, and then the process of receiving that and getting it ready for sale. And then what else? It's just like quite a lot of things that I'm working on. So yeah, stick around and more videos will be coming soon.